All right, for the most part, you got all the chords entered, like the correct chords. There's a couple that were not what it was supposed to be. I'm going to point those things out to you. And then fair amount of moving some chords to other places, and I'm gonna give a bit of a hint as to like what I think of with this process of going from one chord to the next. Um, so at the beginning here, let's see. So we're gonna go to a different place for chords 1 to 5. So something to remember here, like chord 1 to 5. Like sometimes maybe you would want to go up that direction right there. But the shortest distance to going from chord 1 to 5 is going straight down. Just going boom, straight down to it. Okay? So things like that are very helpful to remember. Now, if you're going from chord 1 to 4, you would go just straight up. Straight up. So chord 1 to 4, you just go straight up, move up to the very next string. And it's usually like the same frets, of course, or at least the same fret for the root note. Of course, when you got the G and B string involved, or really when the B string is involved, then it's a little bit different. But like down here on the lower strings, like if I'm going from the C chord here up to the chord 4, I just move up a string, and that's the same. And then let's say I'm playing chord number 1 right here, and I want to go to chord number 5, I just move it down. Now, if I'm playing chord number 1 right here, and I need to go to chord 5, and I'm trying to keep it close, well, we can't just lower it down. Here, yeah, we're just going to go up and over like that. So, something like that's good to keep in mind with this stuff. We're going 1 to 5. Typically, to keep it as close as possible, we're just going to just drop it straight down. This chord here, we do need an A minor, no 5. That is not an A minor, no 5. So that's one of the few chords that we just gotta fix and put in the right one. Okay, so moving down, a lot of these, yeah, it's just a matter of like putting them in a different place. So like a hint here on this one. Well, let's see. Usually, a lot of times I try and avoid string skipping when it comes to like your root notes. So like going from here to here, like is that F to D root note? Yes, it is. And you could argue like, well, it's just 8 to 7, so that's close by, certainly. But then you also have to skip a string to get there. So there is another place to go that would not have you skipping a string. And that's where I would like to go. And of course, you got personal preference for a lot of these things, which is why, I always have everybody compare the old way versus the new way. Sometimes people prefer the old way, and then just stick with that. But yeah, we're going to find a new place for chords 2 and 5 here. And then, like, when I'm thinking of this, like, you got your chord 3, 4, and 5 in this progression. So one thing I think of is, well, how can I keep chord numbers 4 and 5 closer together? So basically, like something like this, and this is going to happen later on this page. If I'm going from chord 4 to 5, and I know we have a chord number 2 in the middle, but let's pretend like we don't. I'm just going to go right next to it. So chord 4 up to chord 5. Just move right next to it. No need to change strings. No need to skip strings. Just go straight into it. Now, you might have a progression that maybe it's a really weird one, and you can't actually keep it like a chord 4 to 5 right next to each other for, I don't know, I can't think of an example as to how that would work right now. There might be one that comes up later. But basically, usually you want to keep things like that right next to each other. It doesn't always work out that way, but a lot of times it does. So my thing is, like, I'll try that first, like try and keep chord 4 and 5 together if it's in the same progression, even if you have something in the middle. And if it doesn't seem like it actually flows very well with the rest of it, then I'll make a change. Okay, so the next one, yeah, we're going to go to a different place for the D minor and the C. Now, like the C chord, this kind of ties in with what I mentioned earlier. Like if I'm going 5 up to 1, or in this case 1 down to 5, I'm going to just drop that root note down. It's like here to here. So it's a similar thing going from chord 6 to chord number 2. So check this out. When you have like a 1-4-5 progression, very common progression. Like so, C is chord 1, F is chord number 4, G would be chord number 5 in this key anyway. So you see, you got that kind of L-shaped pattern, right? You have the same kind of pattern if you go 6, 2, 3. So chord 6, chord 2, chord 3. It's really like the minor version, the minor chord version of that 1-4-5. In fact, if we look at this from a minor scale or a minor key perspective, that's exactly what it would be. It'd be like, so if we considered A minor chord number 1, then we'd go up to chord number 4, over to chord number 5, like that. Of course, if I was up higher, we could go down to chord number 4. I'm sorry, down to chord number 5. Anyway, so in fact, yeah, what I was talking about just right there, down to the minor version of this. So, recap real quick. The 1-4-5 from the major scale, major key perspective, which is what we're doing right now, we have this shape. 1-4-5. 1-4-5. So we have the same kind of pattern that happens when we go chords 6, 2, and 3. So if I just use the root note, same thing right here. Looks exactly the same, right? So going 6 to chord number 2, we're going to go like this and just drop it straight down, okay? I'm playing in the wrong spot. That's chord 6. I'm saying that wrong. I'm sorry. You did go drop it down. Chord 6 to chord 2, we go up. So I was just demonstrating that, wasn't I? The 6, 2, 3. Yeah, so same thing here. 6, 2. So here to here. And I'm looking at it as root note to root note. So instead of looking at it as like the entire chord and moving the entire chord around, think of it like this. Root note to root note. You want to make the smallest, most easy, convenient path going from root note to root note. And then you just plug the chord shape in. So, chord 6 to chord number 2, you just want to jump up to it. Because here to here, that's what I'm thinking. Boom, boom. And then, what you did here, if it was just these two on its own, perfect, because you went from chord 2 to 1, so you kept it right next to each other. That's what you want to do when you move or pick the new D minor chord position. Okay. So yeah, right here, chord. So your original way right here. So going from chord 5 to 4, they're right next to each other, right? It's just 5 to 4. So that's what you want to do in this kind of situation. 5 straight down to 4. So yeah, just keep it right there on the same strings when you have something like that. So you want to change the position for chord number 4 and 1. Chord number 6 actually works pretty well right here, so we're going to leave that alone. Even though you could definitely play it here, so this way you're right next to chord number 5. So here is an example of when playing it like this can actually work well and have that string skip. That actually feels pretty easy to do. You can argue that it's actually less movement than doing this. But Either way, it would be okay. See this one here. All right, so this is another instance, one of the few times we have actually the wrong chord written out. So chord number 2 is a D minor, no 5, but that is not what you have written. So basically, you just need to put in the correct one here. Let's see. Next. All right, so same idea here. Yeah, we do need a D minor, no 5, but that is not what you have tabbed out. So we got to put in the correct chord here. Oops. And at the end. And then another place for chord number 4. So remember, adjacent chord numbers, chord 3 to chord 4. That's the hint. Keep them right next to each other. All right, so yes, we need an E minor, no 5, but that is not an E minor, no 5. So that one just needs to be changed. And again, we got chord number 4, chord number 3. So like they're going right next to each other here. So think about it. If that's chord number 4, where should chord number 3 go? Okay, so this one. So yes, D minor, no 5 is chord number 2, but that's not what you have tabbed out. That chord is one we've played many, many times. That's just a D5 power chord. So it's got a 5. What's missing is the flat 3 or the minor third. So yeah, you got to put in the correct chord there. All right, so yeah, this is just another move these chords somewhere else. Remember, I'm going to keep things nice and close to each other. So like chords 2 and 1 should be right next to each other instead of having the string changes like that. Same thing with chord 5 and 6. Like they can be right next to each other. Just get another place for chord number 3. So again, chords 3 and 4, put them right next to each other. All right, so this one, I like where the rest of the chords are. I mean, that actually works out great. So think about that. Chords 7 and 1, they can be right next to each other. So that's what you want to do here. Have them right next to each other. Same idea here. So you got chord 5 and then 6. So you can have those right next to each other. Chords 2 and 1 right next to each other. And so this one, yeah, there's just another spot you can play the G that gets a bit closer to the rest. This is one of the, we kind of looked at that earlier, like chord 4 and 5. We do have something in the middle here, but I think if you have chords 4 and 5 right next to each other, like within the progression, it makes it easier altogether to play it. So that one, how did you describe that? Yeah. So the hint on moving chords around for this guy, think about chords 5 and 6 again, right next to each other. Keep them right next to each other. So maybe you can start with moving the G chord or the G no 5, and then kind of fill in the rest from there. Because you do have chords 2 and 1 right next to each other, which is great. But we got to move where those are sitting as well. Down here, Excuse me. Yeah. Let's see. Right here. Excuse me. God. Just finished eating lunch, so I was messing with my throat. Blech. Right, so C05, yes, that's what we need. I think you may just put a typo in here, because this is a B minor no 5, that's correct, but look at the note right here. You put the 3rd fret there and the 3rd fret there. So I think it may have just been a typo. So I just want to put in the correct one here. All right, and there, again, when you have chord numbers right next to each other, you want to keep them there, or keep them right next to each other on the fretboard as well. So chord 5 to 6, keep them right next to each other. Chords 2 and 3, keep them right next to each other. And then that's cut off. All right, so yeah, same idea here. Chord 3 into chord 4. 3 and 4 are right next to each other. Let's keep them right next to each other. And then, yeah, think about it's that chord in the middle thing again. So keep the chords 4 and 5. Like, imagine we don't have this. How is 4 and 5 going to go next to each other? So that is how they would go if we were going to keep the chord 4 down here. But again, we want to have chords 3 and 4 right next to each other on the fretboard. So hope all that makes sense. And if not, let me know. Yeah, so any questions, let me know. Got a note right here. Yeah, so start here and just go through all that stuff. So, yeah, any questions, let me know. And I will see you again next week.